Hey guys, it's Lucas, and in this video I'm going to be going over my setup for the Air Jordan 1 Hyper Royals that are going to be dropping tomorrow. Now there are a lot of different sites that are going to be dropping these, but the main two site types that we're going to be focused on for tomorrow's release are foot sites and Shopify sites. And now before I get into how you set up for both of these, I'm just going to quickly go over some of the fundamentals that you need to have covered before you start setting up your tasks. So the first thing you want to do is you want to go to the billing section and you want to add all your billing profiles over here. It's quite simple. Just click on add new and add all the information that you need. Now I already have a test profile set up and I'm going to give you some quick pointers that you just sort of have to keep in mind so that your profiles are good to go for tomorrow's release. So if you may notice something, as you can see over here, I have the apartment number in address 1 line instead of the line 2, and the reason I do that is if you go to the foot site's actual site and you try to check out an item, you'll realize that any of the foot sites that you try to check out an item from only has 1 line for the address. They don't actually have 2 lines. And so in the past what has happened is when people put their information address 2, it actually wouldn't register, and so this sometimes may lead to cancellations. So just to play it safe, what you want to do is you want to have all your information in address line number 1. And the same thing applies if you, instead of an apartment number, you have a room number or whatever else that you usually put in line 2. If you usually don't put anything over there, then no need to worry much about that. Another part that you also have to sort of like keep in mind as well is the email. Now, you want to make sure that you use a trusted provider for your email. What I mean by that is just, provider like Gmail, Yahoo, Hotmail, just any sort of like one that a lot of people use basically. And the reason I'm pointing this out is because a lot of people use catch-alls instead of using actual emails like Gmails. Now, if you don't know what a catch-all is, I wouldn't worry too much about that. But if you've heard about them or even used them, I would recommend you avoid them for tomorrow's release, as they do increase your chance of getting cancellations if you don't know how to properly use them. Now, once you're done with setting up all your billing profiles, you want to go to the proxy section. Now in this section, you want to add all your different proxy groups. To do that, you just simply click on add new, give the group a name, and then add your proxies. I'm just going to use this for example. I'm going to add some proxies, gonna add them, and then click save, and you're done. Now I won't really get much into actual proxies or what are proxies or what proxies are recommended for tomorrow, because I already covered all of this in the Discord. So if you were to go over here, first of all, you have the recommended proxies group. So if you go over here, you pretty much have an explanation of what are proxies, and you have what proxies work on the different sites. And then obviously here you have where you can buy different proxies. Here are a list of examples of different partner providers that you have access to that usually offer discounts to AIOBot members. And on top of that, I also, in the actual release guide, I also mentioned a section here on what proxies that I'm going to be planning on using tomorrow, so you can check this out as well. But regarding the actual proxy setup, it's very simple, very straightforward. If you have proxies from different providers, what I often do is I have them in different lists. So let's say I have proxies from A and B, for example, I'm gonna have a list for A and B. If I have another list of proxies for live proxies, I'll have that in a different group. For Sensor Harvester, you do not have to worry about that, and this includes all sites, not just foot sites. Right now, you do not have to harvest cookies for any sites, so no need to worry about that. And of course, in the settings as well, you do have the webhook. If you're not too familiar with what a webhook is, I'm not going to go over it because I have also covered that. If you go to the video tutorials, click on the how to create a Discord webhook, and it'll lead you to a video on how to create a webhook. It's not absolutely mandatory, but it's a convenient way for you to be able to track your notifications, your success notifications on Discord. But once you're done with that, you can finally go to the task section. So now we're going to start setting up for the releases. There are two different types of releases as we discussed at the beginning of this video. You have foot sites and you have Shopify. So I'm going to go ahead and start with foot sites. If you click on add new, you go to foot sites. Over here you get to select which foot site you want to set up. Now to know which foot sites you have to pick, quite simply go to the Discord, go to the Jordan 1 Hyper Royal guide, and over here you will see the different foot sites that are releasing. So Foot Locker is releasing both men's and GS. As for Champs, Foot Action, and Kids Foot Locker, these are dropping GS only. The same applies for Foot Locker Canada. And then for Europe, you have the men's sizing. So I'm going to go ahead and pick the men's sizing from Foot Locker. And I'm going to go ahead, select Foot Locker, go to PID, paste the PID here. Guest, I always leave it as guest. For the proxy list, go ahead and select my proxy list. And then for the modes, you have 3 different types of modes. What you're going to want to do for tomorrow's release is you're going to want to run a mix of normal and fast mode. There is no recommended ratio at the moment, so you won't find anybody that'll tell you to run more normal or more fast tasks. So it's up to you how you want to split it. Maybe it's dependent on what has worked for you in the past, or if you're unsure, you could always run 50-50 and just kind of see how that works for you. As for restock, you usually want to focus these more towards maybe the end of the release, or maybe later on in the week when these restock again. So I'm just going to leave this normal for now. For size, you have 2 different options for foot sites. You either go for a specific size or you go for random sizing. Now, if you want to pick specific sizing, then you could always go to the guide, and over here it'll tell you what sizes are available. So here it's mentioned you have sizes between 7.5 and 12, and then you have size 13, 14, 15. So you could always go for something like 8 or 10.5. All right. You could also go for random. This will try to cop for you any item within the size range that I just showed you. But something you cannot do is this. You can't go for multiple sizing. So this will, as I will show you in a bit, this actually works for Shopify. So if you do this, you could actually cop one of these 3 sizing. But this does not work on foot sites. You have to go for either specific or random sizing. So I'm just going to go for random for now. For billing, just go over here, select your test profile, or you can select all billing, and that way you will be able to set up a task for all the different billing profiles that you have. For task delay, this is also another thing that you want to keep in mind. If you run normal or fast mode, the task delay, it doesn't matter, right? So whether you leave it 100, 1,000, 15,000, it doesn't matter, all right? Because it is already preset in the bot, basically. The only time that would really matter is when you're running restock. And if you're running restock modes, then you could have the delay around 10,000, more or less. It's up to you also to experiment and see what works for you. As for number of tasks, that's also quite simple. You can just kind of go 10 tasks, click on save. There you have it. You have 10 tasks set up. Now, obviously, you're not limited to Foot Locker only, and this is what I actually recommend you do tomorrow, is you actually have your bot set up on different foot sites, And so if you go back to the guide, over here you have Foot Locker men's, but you could also run GS as well, right? This all depends on whether you're going to be running all sizes or whether you're going to be running specific sizes. Obviously, if you're going to be running a size 10, then running GS does not make sense because size 10 is not included in this size range. But if you are interested in all sizing, right, if you plan to resell, for example, or you just want to increase your chance of just touching these, then you can run random. And the same applies to GS. So if I get the GS PID here, and I click on this, and I click save. Now I created 10 more tasks, but this time with the GS PID. The same thing you could do is you can go to Champs Sports. Since Champs is going to be releasing GS as well, you can create 10 tasks for that. You can go to Foot Action and create 10 tasks. And then you can go to Kids Foot Locker as well, create 10 more tasks, all GS sizing. There are no mens on either of the last sites that I just mentioned. And as you can see right now, you have 50 tasks set up, very simple. Of course, all of this was a very quick demonstration. I'm going to give you a bit of an insight right here. So usually with foot sites, you will notice that they have a much higher stock for mens sizing compared to GS sizing. And this is almost applicable for any site, not just foot sites. Now, since this release, the only site that you have that is dropping mens sizing Foot Locker, you're gonna want to have most of your tasks running with Foot Locker. So I would say anywhere between 50 to 75% of your tasks, you're gonna want to run them on Foot Locker with the mens PID. And then for the rest of your tasks, you can split them with all the different foot sites for GS sizing. This is how I'm going to be personally running. I may even go a bit higher with the mens for Foot Locker, just because, you know, the stock on these just are going to be considerably higher compared to other foot sites GS sizing. Now, before we get into the Shopify setup, just a couple last remarks. Firstly, you may have noticed I did not discuss the CAPTCHA solver. And that is because for foot sites at the moment with AIOBot, you do not have to worry about solving any CAPTCHAs for foot sites. It's a great feature that we have going on right now. All you have to do really is just make sure that your tasks are running smoothly throughout the release. Also, I notice a lot of people during the release, they tend to look at the task status. They're like, why is my task doing this here? Why is my task doing that here? Just ignore the task status. It's not that big of a deal. What you really have to care about are the logs. So you want to click on logs over here, and then during the release, when you click on this, you will realize that you have different logs being displayed over here. And so this is basically your way of checking your task and making sure that everything is running smoothly. Now, obviously, you may not be familiar with some of the logs that are displayed, so you could always go to the Discord, and you can always go to the logs section right here, and you can always submit your logs, and then a support member will get back to you on that. But other than that, that's really all you need to know about setting up for foot sites. You know, there is a lot more to it, of course, but this is just kind of like the basic fundamentals of how you set up AIOBot for that. Now let's move on to Shopify. Now to set up for Shopify, you want to click on Add New, go to Shopify, and over here you have a list of different sites. To know which sites are dropping, you could always refer to your cook group, or you can go to the Jordan 1 Hyper Royal guide. And over here, we have a list of different sites, some that are confirmed, others that are not confirmed, that could potentially be dropping, right? And so let's pick a site. So let's go for Shoe Palace. If I were to scroll down, go here. For the majority of the Shopify sites, for tomorrow, you're going to want to go for guest. The only exception would be Chicago City Sports. As you can see here, it says you need accounts. To add your accounts, you go to the settings, and then over there you will have the chance to sort of add your accounts for Chicago City Sports. To get the accounts, obviously you'd have to go to the site manually, and you'd have to create an account over there, and then you'd have to input the email and the password in the settings over here. But for the rest of the Shopify sites, you just want to leave it as guest. Now here you have the proxies. I'm just going to use my test proxy list. Whether you want to use early link or keyword or variant, that depends on the site. So if you go to the guide next to Shoe Palace, you see that you can use the early links mentioned below. So you can quite simply take this, copy it, go, and just paste it over here, right? For sites that don't have keywords, that don't have early links, you could use keywords. Also, I didn't discuss variants. For variants, you can always check them with your cook group if you're in one. Otherwise, just stick to early links or keywords. And then over here, you have the different modes that you want to run. This is also quite simple. If you go to the guide, next to each site, it tells you whether you have to write use fast or boost mode, and in the case of Shoe Palace, you want to use boost mode, so leave that as that. For the sizing, you have 3 different options. You have specific sizing, so something like size 8, size 9.5, or you could use multiple sizing. So you could use something like size 6 and 6.5 and 7. So the bot will try to cop either one of these 3 sizes. And then you have the basic random sizing as well. For min price and max price, I usually leave them empty. For shipping rate, just go to the guide, go to the pre-calculated shipping rates over here, click on that. It'll have a list of different sites and their shipping rates. Just go to that document and just copy the shipping rate from there and paste it over here. Then over here you go to the billing profile. I'm just going to select my test billing profile. Now, while for foot sites you didn't have to worry about delays, for Shopify you actually do have to worry about that. In this case, what you could do is you could go to the guide as well. It mentions which kind of like range you want to use over here. So you can have a mix of that. If you go over here as well, you can even, if you go to the release tips, you can actually take this a step further, and you can actually start the release with a bit of a higher delay. So usually what you could do is, let's say 5 minutes before the release, you could start with a delay of 5,000, for example, right? So click save, and now you have your shoe palace task made. So now the delay on that, as we said, is 5,000, right? So what you're gonna wanna do during the release is, once you have the task running, what you could do is go to mass, selected task delay edit, and then you wanna lower it. So let's say you wanna lower it to 3,000 at first, for example. So you click on save. When you hover over the mode over here, it shows you that the delay has now decreased, right? And so what you want to do is gradually decrease your delays as you get closer to the release. Now, in this case, I showed you an example where I created a task for a Shopify site that needed an early link. But if the site that you're setting up for, let's say you're going for DTLR, for example. So if you were to go to DTLR, click on that, then instead of the early link, you're going to want to use a keyword, right? So you go to keyword, you have positive keywords and your negative keywords. So just simply go to the Discord. Over here, if you're setting up for the men's sizing, simply copy all of this, paste that, then go over here and paste that. It's quite simple. Click save. You have your DTLR task set up. Now, unlike foot sites, you want to make sure that you have your CAPTCHA solver open. So I'm not really going to get much into that because this video is already a bit long, but it's quite simple. The setup for that, simply go to the video tutorials, and you can either watch the how to set up tasks for Shopify sites video, or you could just simply watch the how to set up the CAPTCHA solver if you're new to that, and it should walk you thoroughly through the steps needed to set up your solver. But make sure you have your solver ready for tomorrow's release. And one final tip for Shopify: if you're not running on a server or a virtual box, and if you don't know what these are, then you're probably not running on either. Then what you want to do is you want to have at least 1 or 2 tasks running with no proxy list, right? And this is the best tip that I can give you for tomorrow's release for Shopify sites. A lot of times the issues that a lot of members encounter with Shopify are related to the proxy that they use. You know, Shopify is good at causing problems for different proxies. So having no proxies can actually, it's sort of like a way for you around the problems that a lot of members usually deal with. So definitely do give that a try. My recommendation would be, if you're running multiple Shopify sites, then have one task for each Shopify site without any proxies running, and then leave the proxies for foot sites. That is just kind of like the way I would personally set up for tomorrow's release. But other than that, you know, I pretty much covered everything you need to know. Just sort of like the basic understanding of how to set up for foot sites and for Shopify for tomorrow's release. If you noticed, if you felt like there was if you feel like some of the sections I rushed over them then you always have the option to kind of go to the video tutorials and check the different sections over here. In these tutorials, I slowly go over the different setups, but I gotta keep this video a bit short, so I gotta make sure that I kind of cover as much as I can, as quick as I can. But anyways, I hope you found this video useful, and I want to wish you the best of luck on tomorrow's release, and let's hope for the best, guys. See you.